There have also been times when I have interviewed someone, and from the first 10 minutes, I said to myself, I need to have this person on my team. I want that to be you, friends. Be the person that we can't live without. I'm Lisa Harding, ex-EdTech CEO turned certified teacher career coach. It wasn't all that long ago that I was recruiting, interviewing, and hiring teachers for roles in corporate America. Teachers that ended up being some of my all-time best employees. Fast forward through my own career transition, where I left my role as CEO to become a stay-at-home mom, I now work with and empower teachers to transform their lives by turning their once distant career dreams into realities. In this podcast, I give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're a burnt-out teacher or simply need a change and you're looking to create a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode designed to help you stand out during your interviews as a career transitioning teacher. My name's Lisa Harding. Many of you already know this, but I have over a decade of experience recruiting, interviewing, and hiring career transitioning teachers in roles across corporate America. And today's episode is all about taking that experience and giving you actionable steps to acing your interviews. Because not only have I interviewed career-changing teachers, I've also interviewed professionals who have been in the field for years and years. And when I say that I have seen it all, friends, I have literally seen it all. From people entering the interview room wearing tight and revealing clothing not appropriate for a professional setting, to having a candidate stand up to ask to use the bathroom and not return to the interview. But there have also been times when I have interviewed someone, and from the first 10 minutes, I said to myself, I need to have this person on my team. I want that to be you, friends. Be the person that we can't live without. So let's take some time today, draw on my experience, and talk about both challenges and successes that I've seen firsthand. You'll hear my feedback as a hiring manager and actionable tips for you to ace your next interview. I'm going to organize this into the top 10 mistakes that I've seen in interviews. And for each mistake, we'll talk about why it's a mistake and then tips to avoid it. But not only do I want my clients and you to avoid making mistakes, I want you to stand out in interviews. So we'll also cover ways to make you stand out and win your interviews. Let's dive in. The first mistake is lack of preparation. Failing to research the company or understand the role's requirements can signal disinterest and lack of initiative. Prepare by researching the company's recent projects and aligning your skills with their needs. When I've asked people in interviews, what do you know about us? I've heard everything from responses that make me want to immediately terminate the interview to solid answers to really great answers. So let me give you a few specific examples. Now, for reference, my examples are going to come from the time where I was employed by an online teacher professional development company. So I'll use specific examples for that company. Believe it or not, I've interviewed people that when I asked them what they knew about my company, they would say, honestly, I don't know much, but I know you do something with teachers. Or they would say, I don't really know, but I'm eager to learn more. This is a huge red flag as a hiring manager, and if I hear this, I'm likely going to terminate the interview early. Maybe I'll ask a few more questions to be polite, but to be honest, I've already made up my mind that this person isn't a fit. Because for me, I want someone who wants to be there. You're beyond the stage of just sending out applications. You're meeting one-on-one with someone, and at this point, I expect that you know about my company. A good answer would be something like, I went to your website and I saw that you did online teacher professional development and that you offer a wide variety of topics for teachers to learn about. But if you really want to shine, include specific examples of things and take it to the next level of why the company speaks to you. Now, one of the goals while you're interviewing should be to showcase to the employer that their company is your dream company and why you want to work for them. Make it seem like this is your number one choice and you don't want to work anywhere else. This question about what do you know about the company is just one way that you can start to weave that into your storyline. So you could say, I love XYZ company and I'm really excited for a chance to work here. I know that you do online teacher professional development and I love that you offer training in social emotional learning. That's something I'm very passionate about. And when I saw these trainings in your course catalog, I really dug into that and I loved seeing the 15 training videos that you had on that. I also read a press release recently that your company put out about the new product features that you're going to be rolling out. And I really love that the company clearly has an emphasis on improving and growth. I'm really looking for a company where I can contribute to a growth environment. You can see how this last example not only showcased the preparation, what you know about the company, but it also starts to build that foundation, the story about why you're so excited and why you're the person that best aligns with the company's values. Now, let's move on to mistake number 2, which is weak storytelling. Teachers often struggle to articulate how their teaching experience translates into the new role. You can avoid this by practicing specific examples that highlight relevant skills like leadership, communication, and adaptability. Now, let me give you some concrete examples of a weak story that I may have heard, and then how to reframe that as a stronger story. Let's say my interview question was, can you tell me about a time when you led a project? A weak response might be, sure, I led a group project with my students where we created a presentation on environmental conservation. It was a lot of work, but in the end, the students learned a lot and the presentation was well received. Why is this weak? The story is vague. It doesn't really provide enough details about the teacher's specific role or the skills that they used. It focuses more on the student's experience and really didn't give me any details about the teacher's work ethic or skills that they had. For a stronger response, you could say something like, absolutely. Last year, I led a school-wide initiative on improving a recycling program. I started by forming a committee of students and teachers. Together, we conducted an audit of the current recycling practices, identified areas for improvement, and developed a plan to increase participation. I organized weekly meetings, delegated tasks, and set deadlines to ensure we stayed on track. Additionally, I created educational materials and led workshops to raise awareness about recycling. As a result, we increased our recycling rate by 30% in 3 months. This experience honed my leadership, project management, and communication skills, all of which I'm eager to bring to this role. Now, this story is very specific and detailed. It clearly outlines the teacher's role, the actions they took, and the results they achieved. It highlights key skills such as leadership, project management, communication, making it clear how their experience would be relevant to the new role. When you practice examples at home, and please make sure you practice, try following the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. This will help you create compelling stories that clearly demonstrate your transferable skills. Practice these stories to ensure you can confidently articulate how your teaching experience makes you a strong candidate for the new career path. Another mistake that I've seen in my experience that could lead to a bad interview is overlooking nonverbal cues. Nonverbal communications such as lack of eye contact, fidgeting, they convey nervousness or disinterest. Practice maintaining confident body language and active listening during your interviews. Confidence is key. As a hiring manager, I am always drawn to the more confident candidates. Small things like posture and eye contact can really make a big difference. This is true whether you're on a Zoom interview or face-to-face. So keep that in mind, especially on Zoom. Make sure you're looking into the camera and not looking into the screen. The next mistake is one that I would see often, which is just rambling answers that don't really answer my question. Providing lengthy, unfocused responses can lose my interest as an interviewer. Prepare concise, structured answers that directly address the question and highlight your qualifications. So let's hear some examples. Assume my question to the candidate is, can you tell me about a time when you had to handle a difficult situation with a student? A poor response might be, oh, there have been so many times when I've had to deal with difficult students. There was one time, it was a really hot day and the students were all restless. And I had one student who was always very energetic. And on that day, he was particularly hard to manage. He kept disrupting my class and I tried talking to him several times, but that strategy didn't seem to work. Then I remember thinking about different strategies that I could use, and I even talked to some of my colleagues at lunch about it to get other ideas. By the end of the day, it was so exhausting, I still didn't have a solution. It was really challenging, but we got through it, and just know that handling difficult situations is something that I do every day while teaching. Now, this answer is long-winded, unfocused, not a very clear outcome. It doesn't provide a clear solution or show me how the teacher handled the situation effectively. As an interviewer, I'm probably going to lose interest because the response didn't directly answer my question. On the flip side, here would be a great answer to that question. Certainly, last year I had a student who frequently disrupted my class. One day his behavior was particularly challenging, so I implemented a strategy I had learned in a professional development workshop. I pulled him inside during a break and used active listening to understand his perspective. I discovered that he was frustrated because he found that the material was too easy. I then differentiated my instruction by providing him with more challenging tasks to keep him engaged. Over time, his behavior improved significantly. This experience taught me the importance of understanding the root cause of a problem and using a tailored strategy to address it. This response is concise and directly answers the question. It clearly outlines the solution, the action has taken place, we have the result, and we're showcasing this teacher's problem-solving and differentiation skills. As an interviewer, I can easily follow the story and see the teacher's effectiveness in handling difficult situations, which I can then parlay into my company and how they would address situations working with me. Now, one of the biggest red flags in an interview for me is a person who doesn't ask any questions, and specifically the right questions. Today's episode is sponsored by the Teacher Career Transition Academy. Are you eager to explore new possibilities but find yourself unsure of where to start? Look no further than our Teacher Career Directory. Available for free, this comprehensive resource features over 200 careers tailored for transitioning teachers. Dive into detailed insights including average U.S. salary ranges, occupational outlooks, and even a personalized skills and interests inventory. Download now at teachercareertransitionacademy.com/directory. I'll also drop the link in the show notes of this episode. So don't miss out and claim your free directory today at teachercareertransitionacademy.com/directory. Failing to ask thoughtful questions about the role or company can suggest a lack of engagement. Prepare questions and demonstrate that your interest in the company is interest in their goals, their culture, and for you just fitting in. We get way more into this inside of the Teacher Career Transition Academy's interview prep workshop, but there are several different stages of the interview process. And for each stage, there are going to be different questions that are more appropriate at each stage. The further along you are in the interviews, the more job specific and detailed your questions should be. Now, personally, I've conducted hundreds of interviews in my career when I've been hiring people, and I've also been the interviewee myself. I've interviewed for jobs everywhere from entry-level interviews early in my career to very high-level, in-depth, executive-level interviews later in my career. I will say, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I have never interviewed somewhere and not gotten a job offer except one time. And that was at the corporate office of Google, and I'm assuming that my competition was extremely fierce. And I credit some of this to success to my question asking. And the only reason that it kind of comes up to me that might be something that I can credit success to is because I have never, in the hundreds of interviews that I've done, I've never had someone ask me the detailed type of questions that I ask when I'm interviewing. So I want to dive in a little bit here. And again, I didn't bring up that statistic to brag. I just think it's a differentiator for me that I wanted to impart on you. Essentially, when I interview at a company, I feel like I'm interviewing the company as much as they're interviewing me. Early on, the questions I might ask might be higher level, such as, is this a new position or are you filling the spot from someone else? I might follow that up with, did that person leave or were they transferred or promoted? I might also ask, how would you describe the company culture? Or if it was my manager, what type of leadership style do you have? These are some of my favorite interview questions because it will let me know if I really will thrive in that environment. Now, when you're leaving the classroom looking for your first job, you might take any job that you can get and be happy with it. But you want to leave the interviewer with a thought that you're picky as well and you're looking for a really good fit for you because you want to be there long term. Now, let's fast forward to some interview questions that I might ask a little later in the process. These are some of my personal favorites. Fast forward a year into this position, what would I have done that made you say that I'm doing an incredible job and that it's everything that you hope for and more? I love that question. You can also go into more specific questions about your role or department. So let's say that you're interested in customer success. Some great questions might be, what metrics do you use to define success of your customer success agents? Or how many clients would I be managing at a given time? Or what is the average length of a time a customer stays with your company? Another good question, what do you think differentiates a good customer success manager from a great one? These are just a few examples of questions, but each role and company, your questions may be different. But hopefully, just from these that we've thrown out here today, hopefully you have a good understanding of the types of questions that you can and should be asking on your interview. Again, we go a lot more in depth about this inside of the academy. You really want to make sure that you truly understand the day-to-day activities of the career that you are interviewing for so that you can ask thoughtful questions and make sure your lingo and verbiage resonates with the hiring manager. Now, let's move on to another mistake that I've heard, and I literally cringe at. It is when I'm interviewing people and they're criticizing past employers or colleagues. This really reflects poorly on your professionalism and attitude. So always focus on positive experiences and lessons learned from challenges. I think especially for teachers who want to leave the field, friends, I get it. I know why a majority of you want to leave, and there's a lot of bad stuff to unpack. But an interview at a new company is not the time to bring it up. A great answer to this question about, why are you looking for change or why do you want to leave? I'm going to give you a couple of examples in just a minute. But what you want to do is take an aspect of teaching that you like, that also aligns with the new career, and start by focusing on that positive, and then you can bring in your but statement. So again, let's use customer success as an example. Someone says, why are you looking for a change or why do you want to stop teaching? You might say something like, I really enjoy the aspect of teaching where I'm managing students' performance and working every day with people, but I'm looking for a career that is a bit more challenging and offers opportunities to learn new things. That's one reason customer success is the field that I'm going to get into. I love that I'll be able to continue to manage performance and work with people, but I'll also be in a new environment where I can learn new things. That is a great way to kind of bridge and answer the question, but also, again, goes back to that storyline of why you want to be in that specific career and how your passions and interests can translate into the new job. Now, the next mistake I see, and this one is huge for me, is lack of enthusiasm. Displaying apathy or disinterest in the role can deter hiring managers. Showing enthusiasm for the opportunity and how it aligns with your career goals is the way to go. And actually, I think a lot of the time people don't realize they come off, without a lot of enthusiasm. They're not attempting to do that. Maybe they think they're enthusiastic, but you really have to think about this and make it a priority when you go into the interview. Now, granted, my personality type, I'm probably more enthusiastic than the average person, and I'm not saying that you have to completely change your personality, but just be aware of how you use things like inflection and your smile, and make sure you sit up straight. All of this together, even your facial expressions. I think this is even more true when you're on camera doing a Zoom interview because they can't see all of your body language. So just really be mindful of your smile and inflection and your engagement. Now, the next mistake, for teachers, I don't really think this one is an issue. And in my experience, I've never had an issue with this, but it is in my top 10 list, so I'll mention it. It's the unprofessional attire. Dressing inappropriately for the interview setting can create a negative first impression. I always say, when in doubt, dress nicer than you think. But again, I want to say that I've never interviewed a teacher and had any issues with this. Another thing that I like to bring up that kind of goes along with this is if you're doing a Zoom interview, be mindful of your color choices so that you don't blend in with the background. Also, to be safe, personally, I tend to choose solid colors and not prints when I'm on Zoom, but that's just me. It's not a deal breaker. That's just something that I like to do. Another mistake, in addition to rambling answers, is when people just give very vague or incomplete responses. These types of answers just leave me questioning if the person truly is qualified. I'll go back to mentioning the STAR method of situation, task, action, result. And if you structure your answers this way, you're going to be able to give really great answers with specific examples. And the final mistake is failure to follow up with the interviewer or interviewers. Neglecting to send a thank you note or follow up after the interview can signal disinterest. Send a personalized thank you email reiterating your interest in the role and thanking the interviewer for their time. One of my tips is try to remember something specific about the interview and reference that. Now, depending on which round of the interview that you're in, you could be meeting with a single person or you could be meeting with multiple people during that interview. Anytime you have an interview set up, before you even go to the interview, make sure that you have the names and titles of everyone who will be there. I personally like to connect with everyone on LinkedIn prior to the interview, and I send them a message, just let them know I'm looking forward to meeting them on set date and time for my interview. Ideally, I get their email addresses from the recruiter or HR. Or I can tell what their email would be based on how the company structures their other emails, if it's first initial, last name. But again, this only works if I know the proper spelling of their names. You want to send personalized thank yous to everyone. But if for some reason you can't get all of their email addresses, then you can send the thank you email to the main contact and specifically ask them to please forward it to everyone that was at the interview. You can also then attempt to send a thank you DM on LinkedIn. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with a final piece of advice. And I may have mentioned this earlier, but remember that interviews are a two-way street. Not only are you being evaluated, but you are also evaluating whether this company and role are the right fit for you. Approach each interview with confidence, preparation, and genuine enthusiasm. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode of Beyond the Classroom. If you found this helpful, I would love if you hit the follow button and share this podcast with a friend. Stay tuned for more episodes where we'll continue to explore topics to help you succeed in your career transition. Until next time, go out there, ace those interviews, and remember, friends, the journey is just the beginning. Embrace the adventure.